So a while back I made a video about food storage, preparation, cooking, cruising in remote places where it's not easy to get resupplies. And you know, the goal is maximum variety and health. One of the things or ideas that I brought up in that video was storage of grains and beans and grinding them up to make different things. So I'd like to focus on that in this video. I'll show you the grinder. We'll grind up some grains and we'll make flour out of it and flatbread. And then we'll grind up some beans and we'll make some bean dip. Remember that if you mix grains and beans together 50-50, you get all the amino acids. So together, amino acids are like a breakdown of all the proteins. So basically it's a perfect protein. If you mix 50-50 grains and beans, you get all the proteins that your body can digest. So what we're going to do now is we're going to grind up first we'll grind up some grains, and then we're going to grind up some beans. These are wheat berries. Oh yeah, and for storage, I recommend putting an oxygen absorber in there. There's a little oxygen, you can see it there. I'm going to try to fish it out with these pliers. Normally they're reserved for fish hooks. So you can go, this is an oxygen absorber you've seen in other kind of packaged foods. You can go and get, I remember getting a packet of like 100 of them. You know, you're not going to need 100 at one time. So I got these, I got some bags of Mylar. You get this Mylar. A lot of packaged foods like chips or a bulk food shop will get big bags with Mylar because it's oxygen impermeable to oxygen. So you can melt it and make up these things. So I remember making up a bunch of little containers like this. So this has, I didn't say the number. Some of these I say, 5 or 6 or how many oxygen absorbers are in it. Well, actually I did not, but I wish I did. What I do recommend is going to a bulk food shop and asking them for an old Mylar bag they'll give you free. Then clean it, cut it up, and melt to make your own little packets with a pair of hot knives. When you get your big bag of 100 or so oxygen absorbers, have your Mylar packets ready to fill. Mark the quantity and seal as quickly as possible. Then, while provisioning in the future, when you could use only a dozen absorbers, you've got them. And then you can use it over and over time. When you buy, you get a new supply of grains, then you can put the oxygen absorber. This guy here is from November 2017, which was, I don't know, a year and a half ago maybe, and they're perfectly fresh. Here's a basic hand grinder. I just had to modify it a bit so it fit in this little spot here. This is the best attachment for this grinder. This is the grinder. So there's other attachments to it for making oats or butter out of nuts. This stuff expands in volume. So we're going to grind this much of the wheat berries, and it's going to end up filling more than this. It's more dense in the whole grain form. So we'll put this on a higher number and basically just start, it's like a little workout. We'll go a few passes. I'll do a little bit on the right hand, a little bit on the left hand. So I'll go for these berries. You'll tighten it up a little bit more after each pass. Here's the third pass. Even when you keep it on the same setting, I'll keep it on the highest setting and do it again, and it's still a little bit finer. doing it twice on the same highest setting. Cool. So that is good. So this is what we ground, and we are going to fill it in the same jar, and I'll bet you it'll overfill this jar. So basically, one of these of full wheat berries equals about 1.5. And before we start working on the beans, we'll just get this flour here soaking for some flatbread. So for that we'll add a little bit of baking soda. Let's stick some basil in there for fun. Let's stick some black pepper in there. A little bit of black pepper is not bad. And we'll stick an egg in there because we've got them. And for water, you know, when I was sticking egg in here, I won't even put any fresh water in. But since we have really nice, salty seawater with minerals in it, on this boat, this is seawater and this is fresh water. So we'll give it a couple squirts of seawater. And then we'll just let this soak a bit while we grind up the beans. Let's do the same thing with the beans. See how much will one full container fill? So here we go for pass 3, and it was already on the highest setting, or the most fine setting for this. So we'll keep it the same and go to the third pass. So this is now done. He's ground. We're done with the grinder now. We'll put this over here. And then let's see how much of this container fills up with the ground beans. And that's it. So it looks to me like close to the same. The beans are slightly less dense than the wheat berries. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll mix these together and make veggie burgers. 50% bean, 50% like wheat berries or spelts or something. And then they'll be, you know, you get your perfect protein and then add some vegetables, what you got, and cook them like burgers. Make little patties. That works pretty well. Instead, what we're going to do is make, like we said, we're just going to make flatbread with the wheat and bean dip with the black beans. For that, we're going to need to spark up the stove. And this is the basic kerosene stove. It needs a little alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, to prime it so that you're burning a gas instead of a fluid. And that's what kerosene is. You don't see kerosene that much on boats. I'm not really sure why, because it's really a very safe fuel to carry, and it's very easy to procure. Anywhere you go, you can get kerosene. When you think about it, especially when you consider that airplanes and helicopters, a lot of airplanes and a lot of helicopters run on Jet A fuel, and Jet A fuel is a form of kerosene. Just helps to have a window open while you're cooking, because the fumes is the only drawback, I believe, of kerosene. Let's go back and put seawater in here. A little bit of seawater for the beans, and this is some fresh water. Put a bit of fresh water in there. So I'm kind of going back and forth between working on the flatbread and working on the bean dip. We've got some chia seeds, we've got some flax seeds. So I just kind of mix this with some of the grain so that on the outside of the bread it's nice, so it doesn't stick to the, your bread doesn't stick to the rolling pin and whatnot. Before we roll out the flatbread, let's throw some nice things in the bean dip. A tomato, and let's say we have some avocado, and we have some onion. Those all seem like they'd be good to go in the bean dip. And because we ground those beans, the bean dip takes a fraction of the time to cook. Let's give it a little bit of chili. A little bit of chili powder. We've also got these sauces here. We make up mild, medium, and hot. I think we'll go for the hot. These are Witch Sailor special sauce. They're not really a secret or anything, but it depends on what's available. So this is our bean dip now, but we're going to let it cook for a bit longer. I think what we can add to that bean dip, what might help too, is a chunk of cheese. Let's take one of these guys here. This looks like Parmesan cheese from a little over a year ago that we wrapped in cheesecloth and then dipped in hot wax. So this has been sitting in that container for more than a year with no refrigeration. And we will cut this guy out open. And you can see we end up with a nice little chunk of cheese here. Oh yeah, that's good. We'll just give them a couple of little chunks and a couple cuts so it's easier to melt. And toss it in with the beans. That guy is, we'll let him fester a little bit down here. And we'll get some flatbread going. This is what we added the flaxseed and the chia seeds to, so that when we roll it out, nothing sticks. Basically make a little ball with that mixture we made and roll it flat. We'll get the second guy ready. We'll be able to make 3 little pieces of flatbread from this. This guy might be ready for a flip. It'll take a few minutes. So at the end of the process, we probably cooked these beans on that little kerosene stove for about 10 minutes to get our bean dip. Grinding garbanzo beans like hummus, I do less because they're really hard beans. Some beans are softer and some beans are harder. like garbanzo beans or chickpeas, are extremely hard, and corn is very hard. So black beans, pinto beans, mung beans, azuke beans, I mean, experiment around. You'll notice that some are softer and easier to grind than others. So I've kind of gravitated toward the ones I just said because they're a bit softer and easier to grind. But all of them are a very good protein source. And then we made 3 pieces of flatbread. They probably took maybe 15 minutes, say 5 minutes or less for each piece of bread on this little cast iron skillet. And this guy is about finishing now. So now I get to eat and you get to cook your own. Hope this helps.